Wow. Thank you all for inviting me to be here with you tonight. It's good to see familiar faces and it's been great to meet some new people. Have you ever wondered what you're doing here? And I don't mean here tonight at the Temple of Love and Healing, that's a Wednesday night thing, right? But I mean here in these bodies on this earth at this time in history. Yeah? Well, I think most of us have wondered that at least once in our lives, and so often people in my practices come in asking that question. I don't know what I'm here for. Help me figure that out. And for me, I was 38 years old, just a few years ago or so, before I even asked that question. I was at the end of really a life-threatening marriage, and I'd had an amazing spiritual awakening because of that marriage, so I'm grateful for it. And so I started on my spiritual path, and I started studying and reading every self-help book there was and every spiritual book there was. And so I had started meditating and finally becoming still. Everything had always been very fast in my life. And I finally sat down, and I said, okay, God, I don't really know what I'm doing, because what I've been doing hasn't been working out so well, right? Have you ever gotten to that point in your life when you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing? And so I said, there must have been something in mind. There must have been something in mind when you created me. So what did you have in mind? And immediately I heard this voice that I call my God voice inside ask me, well, what makes your heart smile? What makes your heart smile? And immediately these words bubbled up: children, and dance, and music, and art, and nurturing people and animals and things. And so that led me to obtain my master's in social work. And I've been so blessed to work with children and families over the years. And I can tell you those children come in already enlightened. They're awake. So I've been honored to be with my clients when they've trusted me with their stories and they've turned a corner. What an honor to be with them then. But as I've gone along this spiritual journey on my path, learning, and still a lot to learn, or I wouldn't be here, I realized that what I do as a social worker is important, just like any job that you all do, whether it's being a parent at home, or if you're flipping hamburgers, or the CEO of a big company, or own your own business, or working for a nonprofit. Whatever it is you do is important. But I've also begun to realize that more importantly is how I do what I do and how I show up doing it. So I'd like to share a story. There was a Johns Hopkins professor, and he asked his graduate students to go into the highest crime area in the neighborhood, in his whole city, their whole city. And he asked them to identify 200 young teen males between the ages of 13 and 18. And so they did, and they went and they interviewed them, and they hung out with them and their families and their friends. And what he wanted them to do was determine whether or not they'd end up in jail. And so they made a prediction that a high number of them would end up in jail. Later, another professor picked up that research study and asked them to go and find the outcome, because nobody had ever done that. So her graduate students went back out, and amazingly, they found 180 of the original 200 students in the research, teens, now male, grown-up males, can't get that out, grown-up males, who had been in the research study in that same neighborhood. Some had died and some had moved out of the neighborhood. And what they found was even more amazing. They found that only 4 out of 180 ended up in jail. And so they asked them, the graduate students asked them, what made a difference in your life that, you lived in this high crime area, and usually people in high crime areas like this, they don't do so well. They said, well, there was this teacher I had. And most of them said the same thing. Well, I had this teacher. And it ended up being the same teacher. And so the students found this teacher living in a retirement home, kind of like I do now. And, well, almost. And so they asked her, what did you do that made such a positive difference in the lives of these men? And she thought, and she thought. And she goes, I can't think of a single thing I did that made a difference. And then as they were leaving, she was sitting in her wheelchair and she was reminiscing out loud. And quietly she said, I love those boys. I just love those boys. Yeah. Each one of us are here for a magnificent purpose. We're here to realize, to make real, to bring into manifestation who we truly are. You know that we're all spiritual beings stuffed into these human being outfits. We're just stuffed in these human being outfits. And some of us, it doesn't feel so good sometimes when we know how immense we really are. And that's really what we're here to remember, is really how magnificent we are in our spiritual beingness, beyond our human beingness. We're here to see ourselves and others through our spiritual eyes, and to get to know ourselves and others with our spiritual hearts. We're here to really remember, to pull in any little pieces and parts that might have kind of fallen off over the years in certain relationships and situations. We're here to pull and gather all that back in and remember the power of the light and the love that we are, always have been, and we always will be, even after these bodies are gone. Who we really are, as I know you already know, is pure love, pure, unconditional, permanent love, created in the likeness and image of our Creator. That never changes. That's true for every single being on the planet, and maybe those other planets, I don't know. It's true for all of us. And as that love, we vibrate at a very high frequency. Are you familiar with Dr. David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force? Anybody? Yeah? Yeah. He identifies certain states of consciousness from down to shame all the way up. And he identifies love at a level of 500. And you know about the solfeggio tones, the 9 ancient solfeggio tones, the tuning forks. They're measured in hertz, right? And the measurement, the hertz measurement for love and miracles is 528. And I suddenly thought, I'm going to look at this, and they end up correlating. That was kind of cool. So when we are in a state of being love, when we show up as love on earth, love in action through our human being outfits, we're vibrating at a very high level. Not the highest, because the highest is around 1,000 hertz, and that's enlightenment. That's where we know that we know that we know that we are one with all that is. There's no separation. And I believe that's where babies vibrate when they come in. And of course, Jesus and other masters had to vibrate at that level. In his book, The Art of Abundance, 10 Rules for a Prosperous Life, Dr. Dennis Merritt Jones reminds us, as conscious conductors of energy, we carry within us the most powerful tools possible to effect positive change in the world, in the whole world. Because we are the light bearers, and we're just here to pour that light, shine that light into the darkness everywhere, anywhere, no matter what, no matter whether we judge with our human minds that it's bad or wrong. We're still here to shine the light. And we are love beings. We are love beings, vessels of love, to stay in connection with Creator Source, all that is love, here to pour that love out to everyone in every situation. Really, no matter what. Now, that's not always been easy for me, I know. And it's usually because I had an expectation or I had a judgment. But those are the things I'm learning, and those are things I'm focusing and setting an intent to change. Being the love and the light that we are the change the world needs. So much going on in the world, and we can allow ourselves to get down in the muck of it, or we can stay at that high frequency, vibrating at love and above. And that's how we create change in this world. We create it, right here within ourselves first. You know that. We take care of this human being outfit. We take care of our physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, all those bodies and parts of ourselves, so that we can show up. So that we can show up as love in the world. See, Jesus knew who he was. He knew who he was, and he said in John 10, verse 30, "The Father and I are one." He knew that there was no separation between him and Source, Creator God. He knew that. And knowing that, it was easy for him to show up as the love that he is. And he needed his human being outfit to do that too. And look at the miracles that he created, the things that he changed. He changed things for everyone for the last 2,000 years. Well, more than that now. Because he showed up. And he said, we too could do the works that he did, and we'd do even more than that. Because as the years and time has gone on, everything's vibrating a little higher. And there's more of us. And there's more of us realizing who we are. I believe we've reached a tipping point, and that more and more of us are consciously aware of the love that we are. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. And I think more and more of us are aware that every thought we think creates something, creates what we think. So when we're thinking about being loving, if we're sending love across the energy waves, if we're writing about it, if we're speaking about it, if we're in action, what a difference we make. Just imagine if everyone was being and showing up as love in action. I think that's what that teacher did. She showed up as love in action. And what a difference she made. Thank you for listening to me this evening. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for being a blessing to the world. And so it is.
Thank you.